second short film in the Oats Studios franchise by Neil Blomkamp. God damn it. Blomkamp. I gotta say, this one was actually very interesting, and dare I say it, I liked it a lot more than the first one called Raka. Like I said, these are short films, but they have such an overarching story that's not all told in these very short films, but it does set up a universe that you just walk away feeling more enthralled with as time goes on. This is a very gory episode, but they do show some weird stuff. So they go to this forest. The soldiers are trying to retrieve the bodies of their men, and what they find is very harrowing. They find the remains of soldiers all lying there, and at a glance, they look completely normal. But then, when you look closely, what you actually see is something very haunting. You see, the soldiers look like men on the outside, but there's something else entirely on the inside. As the other soldiers start to peel back the flesh off of what was once their friends and comrades, they see what appears to be reptilian or insect-like body parts or structure underneath the human skin. So they essentially look like, well, reptilian insect creatures wearing human skin. If it were not for the skin flaps being opened up, people would think they were regular humans with something just a little bit off. On the outside, they look totally normal, but they walk funny, and apparently, when you try to kill them, they don't feel pain. You can't take them down with bullets. I mean, this is some scary stuff. And you think they're zombies, but they're actually creatures inside men wearing their skin, like freaking Wendigos or skinwalkers. And what I'm about to show you is an example of what they would look like if the human skin was all melted away. Soldiers start recounting the story of what they experienced when they were there in the jungle. Apparently, this skeletal monster starts walking in the jungle, taking pieces of all the fallen men and people that he's killed and using it to form some sort of meat shield armor thing to make him look like a regular or not regular thing. Yeah, this is actually terrifying, but I do like this concept a lot. So you may be wondering, what is this thing? It looks like a regular human Homo sapien entity, but it's just walking around with just a skeletal structure and wires infused within it. Is it some sort of SCP? I guess honestly, yes, you could say that this man would fall into the SCP Foundation category. Now we're not talking about the main character here who has a whole other gift that seems to be protecting him from this evil entity. We don't even know what that is. That in itself can be an SCP too. Of course, if people don't know what SCP is, you are missing out. But we're just going to be talking about the SCP man himself. I keep calling him that because that's all I think about when I see this.
A simple villager. He had no connection to the Viet Cong. He had a wife. He had children.
Oh shit. Born from rage. That's like the worst kind of monster there is. So this person was just a regular person, hence why he has that skeletal structure. He was innocent. He was literally minding his own business, and then these people were having this war, and he just got caught in the crossfire, and they burned his house just because. They're like, yeah, we're not fighting you, but we're fighting your people, so you die by default. It's so horrible and so sucky. Like, I understand it, because it's the whole country they're at war with, but it's still unfortunate when innocent people get caught in the crossfire. And that's all this was. He was innocent. His wife and his children were innocent. Because of the sheer grief that he had, he literally became undone. And that is how the monster that he is was created. So as the other general, or whoever he is, talks to the main character, he was explaining that this guy was so pushed by grief that the very fabric of reality tore around him. So this guy can kind of manipulate matter in a sense, I guess. And also, as a result, he can change the biological makeup of human beings. I don't know if he could do that with other animals, like moi. Probably not, because my powers protect me. Or do they? I don't know. I don't want to take the chance. But anyway, all the fallen soldiers or dead people, he changed them from the inside out. So their basal structure was no longer human. They became the hellish creatures that look like they belong to a world, a hell that he probably believes he is in, and he wants to create that for everyone else. But as the guy said, he's not even sure this person understands what he's doing.
They began calling him the River God. I don't even think he knows he's doing these things.
So he's literally just a walking thing of grief. He went in to get help at a hospital in the village, or one of the villages, and he just proceeded to kill everyone just because, everyone should die. Kind of reminds me of Dracula from Castlevania. He gets his wife taken away from him, the only good thing that he believes he has, the only good thing he believes has happened to him, and then he's like, you know what, since y'all took this away from me because of your nastiness, I'm gonna kill every single living thing on this earth. Have fun with that, since you want to play these games. By the end of the episode, they just start talking about this gun that they made that is kind of like a reality-altering gun that has projectiles that are faster than the speed of light. You know what, let's let them explain it, because it just doesn't make sense to me. I'm sure they just put in that jargon just for the sake of pseudo-sci-fi science.
This is the electromagnetic coil gun. It's firing projectiles at about 1/20th the speed of light.
Okay, 1/20th the speed of light, my bad.
Now this is the real jewel. It creates a magnetosphere. Positive, negative polarity. Everything about this is designed to keep reality unbroken so you can function. You will be protected from the breakdown in space-time.
Then it just starts going. I feel like 6 seasons of a show just got stuffed into the short film, because it goes from this haunting thing, which is this horrible person that you can't even blame him. He's a perfect candidate for a villain, because he is a victim of what happened to him, and he's going around destroying everything, leaving a wake of destruction. And he's evil, but he's not totally at fault. So you feel bad for the guy. You're kind of shooting for him, rooting for him, but you know that he has to be dealt with. And people are fighting this. And then this out of the freaking blue, this dude, and all of a sudden life is on his side, and he's preventing things from happening to him. And you're like, what did I miss? What?
It amplifies the gift you already have.
What is he, Master Chief? We still don't know what this gift is, and I am left so freaking confused, because I thought that this was going in one direction, and then it started going into another direction, and then both directions met in the middle and made a completely different direction, and I'm just left here wondering, what the frick is going on right now? I feel like they started off with something that was very interesting, and I feel like they should have kept with that. I felt like that was an important part of the story, and they just show the destruction of this guy, and they show his backstory. I felt like it should have been a focus on him and the destruction that he's doing and people trying to survive. That would have been very interesting. And then this guy comes up and he's like, I have a gift and I can bend reality out of nowhere. Like, did life just create a polar opposite to the other person? Like, there's just so much that I have questions for. And I understand this is a short film and maybe it's not supposed to make sense because they intended for this to be a greater movie and they just had to put it in a 20-minute, cinematic story. But the ending just made no sense to me. But when the burn victim was explaining what the river god could do, how he could teleport people and literally just he's immune to everything and he could go invisible like Predator, how he could mess with space-time and just matter, I mean, this guy is the freaking bee's knees, man. And I felt like more should have been about him. We should have had more explained about him, or at least shown more of his power or the destruction that he was doing. Usually when you have an entity like this, it's so interesting to see exactly what this thing can do. And they did show that, to be fair. I don't know, I just feel like the direction just went way off from what would have made it more interesting. Why is this river god only connected to the main character? Why is he seeing him in his dreams? What is he trying to tell him? Like, there's a lot of questions. Were these all draft movies that were ideas at some point that just got put on the shelf and they're like, you know what, we're just gonna give up on these, but let's make them short films. That way everything can be left unexplained and it doesn't have to make sense because it's a short film, we're leaving out stuff because it's a short film. It's up to the imagination. You put the pieces together. That is so intriguing and yet so frustrating at the same time. Anyway, go check out Firebase. The studio that Neil Blomkamp owns put it out on YouTube so that you could see all of these, but it's also on Netflix. So if you want to see it on Netflix, it's there as well. All of them are there back to back, so you could just go from one episode to the next, and they do look a little bit better on there than they do on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.